Welcome back to another episode of The Lost Codex, a channel dedicated to the people, places, and histories of Azeroth's universe. In the previous chapter, we explored Odyn's decision to separate himself from the Keepers, the founding of the Halls of Valor, and Helya's refusal to warp Val'kyr's spirits into the Val'kyr. Today we continue the next chapter in the legend of the Titan Keepers. In the wake of Helya's protests and threats, Odyn came to a grim conclusion. Before Helya could follow through with the promise to return the Halls of Valor to Ulduar, Odyn lashed out at the Titanforged sorceress and shattered her physical form. Odyn's research into the Shadowlands allowed the Prime Designate to change Helya's form, twisting and warping her into the first Val'kyr. The transformation was dark, her screams of agony and rage echoing across Azeroth and into the very heart of the Shadowlands. Although the energies that surrounded her new spectral form mirrored the soft golden glow of the Halls of Valor, Helya harbored a deep, foul hatred for the Keeper she'd once seen as a father. Despite the pain and torture Helya was put through, she found herself compelled to obey Odyn's commands. At Odyn's word, Helya ventured forth to transform the unwilling Val'kyr she had once defended into the spectral Val'kyr, who would accompany her on the quest given to her by the Prime Designate. With the following of Val'kyr to assist her, Helya carried out Odyn's orders. She would raise the spirits of the dead Val'kyr warriors from the surface of Azeroth and carry them up to the Golden Halls of Valor, where they would be given new Stormforged bodies. In time, the great halls were filled with the silver and gold forms of Odyn's Stormforged warriors. Odyn's vision for creating an army to protect Azeroth was coming to fruition, and in his eyes, breaking away from his fellow Keepers and creating the Val'kyr by force was all done for the greater good of Azeroth. As Prime Designate, it was his duty to protect Azeroth, and everything he did, every order he gave was done in the name of the Pantheon, for they had trusted him to uphold their sacred charge. Down below, the rest of the Keepers faced a plight of their own. The Pantheon was silent, and despite their attempts to make contact, the Keepers received no answer. The eerie silence from the Creators troubled the Keepers, who fell into a long stupor of doubt and despair. Unbeknownst to them, the old god, Yogg-Saron, stirred within his prison beneath the fortress of Ulduar. Having spent eons in solitude, Yogg-Saron wove a carefully devised plan in order to escape imprisonment and overpower his jailers. The old god planned to warp and taint the creation matrix within the Forge of Wills, the device used to create the Titanforged servants, and infect it with a blight known as the Curse of Flesh. If successful, the Curse of Flesh would spread to all future creations that emerge from the Forge, with the possibility of spreading to previous generations of Titanforge as well. The curse would turn the stone and metal bodies of the Titanforge into bodies of flesh, blood, and bone, making them easy targets for the old gods and their minions. Before Yogg-Saron could corrupt the Forge of Wills, he would need someone he could manipulate. Someone who could carry out his plan as they fell into the old god's sway. His gaze fell upon Loken. In the wake of the Titan's silence, Loken's mind was clouded by despair. The Titan Keeper would seek comfort from a Val'kyr female named Sif, the wife of his brother Thorum. In private, Loken confided in Sif, confessing his darkest fears, paranoias, and clouded emotions. Eventually, their close bond blossomed into a forbidden and life-changing love. It was the romance that sparked between them that would become the catalyst for Yogg-Saron's plans. Yogg-Saron twisted the Keeper's love for Sif into an obsession, forcing Loken to become more rash and unpredictable. When Loken suggested they reveal their love to all, Sif denied him, knowing that Thorum's anger would shatter the union between the Keepers of Ulduar. Sif decided to end her affair with Loken, demanding that he stay away from her. In response, Loken lashed out violently at the Val'kyr, killing her instantly. Fear and guilt overwhelmed the Keeper. He could not bring himself to confess to Thorim what he had done to Sif, nor for the reasons he had done it. But just as he started to contemplate his next move, Sif's spirit appeared to him in his greatest time of need. Surprisingly, Sif forgave Loken. The Val'kyr spirit guided Loken's hand, urging him to act quickly before Thorim discovered the truth. Although Loken was quick to act, something in Sif's words sparked a glimmer of suspicion in his mind. In the end, his fears and paranoias surrounding Sif's death overwhelmed him, clouding his better judgment and doubts. Loken acted quickly and dragged the Val'kyr's corpse into the icy lands of the Storm Peaks, before returning to his brother and informing him of Sif's death. Thorim ventured out and discovered his beloved Sif in the frozen wastes, his cries of anguish and sorrow shaking the very heavens of Ulduar. Loken told Thorim that Arngrim, king of the Ice Giants, was to blame for his beloved's death, prompting the grief-stricken Keeper to lash out and kill Arngrim and many of his followers. In the wake of Arngrim's death, a civil war broke out between the angered Frost Giants and the Storm Giants loyal to Thorim. Sif's spirit guided Loken through the war, urging him to use the Forge to build himself an army that would protect Ulduar should they decide to turn their aggression towards the Keeper's fortress. As the conflict raged on, Loken was convinced by Sif to chastise his brother for starting a war among the Titan Forge, berating him for letting his emotions get the better of him. Loken dealt a devastating emotional blow to his brother when he asked what Sif would have thought of Thorim's actions, causing the distraught Titan Keeper to abandon his post at Ulduar and vanish into the howling, frozen wastes of the Storm Peaks. Loken's armies would intervene in the Giants' war, bringing the conflict to an end. But as the battles ceased, Loken noticed a sickness traveling through his armies. An unknown corruption seemed to have seeped into his newly made soldiers, down to the very souls. When Loken called out to Sif for further guidance, he heard nothing. In the deafening silence, Loken came to a terrible realization. Sif's spirit had never truly appeared to him. She had been an illusion created by Yogg-Saron. The old god had played Loken like a pawn, guiding him at every turn in the wake of Sif's death. When Loken had created his armies using the Forge of Wills, Yogg-Saron corrupted it with his curse of flesh, infusing the affliction within the core of the machine. The haunting discovery destroyed the final remnants of Loken's noble purpose. Desperate to cover up his crimes, Loken's paranoias and fears took hold, twisting his desperation into an obsession. Loken's obsession turned him closer to the old god's whispers, before he willingly embraced Yogg-Saron's powers. With the might of Yogg-Saron at his disposal, Loken decided that in order to keep his transgressions a secret, he would have to overthrow his fellow keepers, and utterly destroy all evidence of his betrayal. Thank you for joining us for another episode of The Lost Codex. We'd like to take this opportunity to give a special shout out to the amazingly talented Hypnos. Without him and his customized models, many of our depictions of these stories and characters would be left lacking with outdated models, as well as lore inaccuracies. His work can be found on his DeviantArt page, where he posts customized models of many well-known characters and lore, as well as his own interpretation of characters never depicted by Blizzard. We'd also like to take this opportunity to announce the launch of our new Twitch channel, found at twitch.tv/lostcodexlore. There we'll stream casual gameplay of World of Warcraft, engage in lore discussions and theories, as well as broadcast some of the creative stages that we go through while making these videos. You'll find the link to our Twitch channel in the description below, as well as links to our Twitter, Facebook, Patreon, and Instagram page. If you missed the previous episode on Odyn and Helya's story in the Halls of Valor, click on the video on the right. If you wish to learn of Odyn and Helya's origins, click on the video on the left. And as always, if you enjoyed today's episode, please like, comment, and subscribe. Stay tuned for another episode of the Legends of the Titan Keepers.